Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of At Home with the Willises. I'm Nicci Willis,
I'm Jameen Willis.
and today's topic is, why is African American wealth projected to be so low? And what can we do? But first, you're at home with the Willises. Okay, guys, so before we get started, I want to remind you to subscribe right there below. Guys, we are so close to 1,000 subscribers. This is really exciting, and we've got some things planned.
Yep.
Coming very, very soon that has to deal with this house. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure your family, your friends, everybody subscribes. We're definitely waiting till we get to 1,000. And we're doing something special for the 1,000th.
Prize pack. Prize pack.
1,000th. It's hard to say 1,000th.
I don't even try.
Subscriber. The 1,000th. So we're very, very close. We are, I'll say less than 30. Actually, we're less than 25 away. So it could be maybe somebody you know. Don't unsubscribe and then resubscribe, because that's not gonna be cool.
That don't count.
Yeah, that's not gonna count. So just make sure that you get other people to subscribe. We in this community, we love to celebrate people, and we love to celebrate you. Also, if you are looking to move to the Las Vegas area, we are your team. We can help you relocate. We can help you purchase a home. If you live in the Las Vegas area, we can also help you sell your home, or give you a property valuation. Things are starting to pick up this spring, so we definitely want to help you there. And if you are looking to invest, we can also help you as well. Just visit our website at thewillisteamlv.com. All right.
Schedule a consultation.
Yeah, you can hit the button.
New button alert.
Schedule the consultation right there on our website. All right, guys. So today's topic is heavier than most, I would say.
I'm on my Uncle Ruckus today. I'm pissed off. I'm fired up.
You're fired up. Actually, Uncle Ruckus was a bigot to his own people.
Well, I'm not Uncle Ruckus in the morals, but when he's mad, he's mad.
Yeah, the indignation.
Yeah.
The anger.
Yeah.
That So according to 2020 U.S. Census data, the median net worth of Black households is only $18,430. Wow. If you think about it,
That's not the bad part.
I know.
I mean, that's not the worst
It's
part.
more.
Let's not say
it's
that's
like
not
just
the bad part.
It's a rest moment, because it's just like, man, sit with that for a second. But let's talk about it. Let's get into this. And the reason why we're so passionate about these particular topics, one, is because we are Black, factual, and we live this every day. And a lot of our subscribers are like us. People of color who are ambitious and doing all the things, starting companies, buying properties, all the things. And this, particular topic, it's heavy. I feel like we're always working against something. So let's talk about it. But, we like to lead with light around here. So we also like to talk, what can we do?
Yeah, the main thing I want to focus on, well, not the main thing, but I want to focus on what can we do, because I don't always look at things from like a victim, or I'm always fighting against something. I focus on what's positive, what I can do, what we can do, and if you do different things, it doesn't necessarily have to do a whole lot with you.
Yeah, very true. So let's get into it. I just kind of jumped and had to read that little quote there, but you go ahead.
So there is actually been multiple studies that said that by 2053, that the median wealth of Black Americans will fall to zero. So by 2053, so it's 2024 now.
Yeah, that's 19 years from now.
Yeah. So
interesting.
The first thing you got to understand is numbers. So if you take wealth, period, you got like 80-20 rule, and now it was 90-10. Then we talk about the 1% a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that much more multiplied when it comes to African American or Black wealth.
Yeah.
So if it was the 80-20 rule with all wealth, it's more like, 98-2 with African American wealth. So it's always going to be a big disparity when you take wealth and things into consideration. So,
Sure.
so they saying in the next less than 25 years, then the net worth will be 0.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a couple facts. So it says
Oh, what did I say? What did I say? Yeah, that's not 25 years. I don't think. 2024 and now 2053. How many years is that?
a little,
Okay,
yeah, a little over 25.
25.
So it says the typical white family with 188,000 has 8 times the wealth of the typical Black family with 24,000. So there's extreme
That's
disparities.
A huge wealth gap.
Huge wealth gap. Says there are extreme disparities in employment and wages, home ownership, and housing affordability in the Black community. So I think that the first thing that you have to realize is the easy thing to focus on is, okay, slavery happened, right? So it was other races had a head start at wealth. So when you start a race and you're way behind, of course there's going to be a disparity.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to look at it. Okay, why are they projecting this to be so low? That's one thing that you have to do. The other thing is, in addition to wealth being passed down, so people inherit properties, people inherit businesses, they inherit different type of assets.
Right.
But another thing that's passed down and inherited is actual knowledge and opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that another thing that contributes to this huge disparity is there's a huge lack of knowledge in the African American community and access, not just like wealth, but access to opportunities. So Uncle so-and-so owns this company, you can go work there. Yeah. Or if you got the black sheep of the family, or what they call the screw up of the family, they can go work for, so they got a check down place for them to work or to do or
and
something.
And to learn like part of the family business.
Yeah, or to some opportunity.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day when we were having the presidential election, and I must admit that I was like heavily swayed towards like Christian values, and I watched this whole big infomercial on George Bush, and how he was like the black sheep of the family. He was like
George W. Bush.
Yeah, the son.
Oh, okay.
So he was like the black sheep of the family. He had a big problem with alcoholism. Mm-hmm. Like he was like the black sheep of the family, and they didn't really expect that much out of him. But because of his lineage, because of what he was able to,
who he's connected
opportunities,
he
still became the president of the United States.
Yeah.
So we don't have, a lot of times we don't have the opportunities to be the black sheep or to make a whole bunch of mistakes. We don't have check downs. Like I know in my family, we had one opportunity and I seized that opportunity to get into real estate. It went like, oh, if real estate don't work out, then I can go be a car salesman or go work for a funeral home. I got another uncle.
Yeah.
We don't have as many of those opportunities. So
I mean, the fact of the matter is there are still racial disparities, glaring. We are Americans. And America is still a great country, but there are still racial disparities. And, the fact that, African Americans built this country, but, when you look at the GI Bill, that took place, what was that? After World War II, right? I believe. No, World War One, or was it World War II? After the war.
2.
The GI Bill, where, people were able to get housing.
Yeah.
Two.
That'd be like the 50s and 60s.
Right. Where people were able to get housing, very few African Americans were able to get those loans. Very few. And right there, that right there is a huge, huge wealth gap. We always talk about, owning property. That's why we're so, tied to this. And this is why we're so passionate about this because, real estate and owning real estate is still one of the top ways to begin to build wealth, for your family and everything else. And when you are, unable to get loans and when there is, redlining, and there is still redlining to this day in 2024, when there are communities that are food deserts and, children don't have access to food or 3 square meals a day. And all these things, it all just builds up to the fact that it almost feels like you're running on a treadmill it's just always too fast. And you can never just stop and just walk. You know what I'm saying?
I think we're missing a piece here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it says that the median would be 0, but the median is the middle. So you're going to have your high earners or your high assets over here, and then you're going to, for 0 to be the middle, you have to have people in a lot of debt.
That's right.
Over on the other side. So yes, there are some issues and barriers to generating income, but even if you don't have any money, you might not be in debt. So debt is the problem on the other side. That's giving us this middle ground of 0.
That's good.
So
That's
we got to work
huge.
on that part of it, in our community, the knowledge of, how to not get into debt and then also how to get out of it.
That's good. That is such a good point, Jen. We've talked about how we see, America becoming a renter's nation, and how a lot of these large corporations are buying huge portfolios of residential homes or homes being built just to rent. And it's still creating a huge problem of real estate, of there being a lack of real estate or housing being available. So you're absolutely right. 0 being in the middle means there are a lot of people that have a negative net worth. So that's that gets me riled up even more, really, if you think about it. Also, the erasing of the middle class is happening right now. There are going to be the haves and the have-nots. Truly.
Shoot, I feel like it's already there.
But again, you still missing that middle part.
But
There's
the middle
haves,
part,
the have-nots, and the O's.
And the people that owe, right?
Yeah.
The people that are in debt, the people that have a negative net worth. And I think you're right too, because when we're talking about that, when we're looking at that, it's that use of credit. It's the fact that you have nothing that you can leverage, that your bank accounts are negative, that you have more month left than you have money. That is huge. But I do, again, leading with light, I do think, and I do believe, you had mentioned, let me go back to what you had mentioned though. You had talked about access to knowledge. Now, that's an interesting topic, because we now live in a day and age where truly just about everything is accessible.
To a certain extent, yes. To a certain extent, but it's nothing like, not to cut you off, but it's the difference between reading something on the internet and having a real life personal experience with it.
True.
You know what I mean?
But that's what I'm saying though. To my point, I think this is one of the things that those of us who have, and those of us who have access to it, we can share our knowledge. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Jen, you were going to say something too.
No, I was just thinking about how, like, we talk about zero income, but it's also really expensive to be poor. So just like...
Say that like a little bit more, like explain what you mean.
So in poor areas, insurance costs more.
Yep.
That same food desert, so now you got to go farther to get food, and it costs more because they had to go further to get it to you.
And it's cheaper in other neighborhoods. And so therefore, the food that we're paying for at a premium, we're actually offsetting the cost of those neighborhoods that don't have to pay as much.
Yeah, so a lot of
That's real.
The interest rates and things
Interest
like
rates
that
are
for
higher.
everything, it's higher in these poor areas because they're poor. Like, it's more expensive to be poor. So if I were to go and even try to cash a check, if I had a regular bank account, then that might be free. But if I had to go to the check cashing place, it costs me, a percentage. Exactly.
Yeah.
So my loan from the bank might be 3%, but my loan from the check cashing place could be 100%, depending on
Where you
on
have
what
to
it
pay
was.
back that thing.
Got to pay for
every
for
week.
poverty.
And there are, it sickens me to see these predatory lending places in Black and brown neighborhoods.
That furniture rental, crazy.
Rent to own. What if we were flipping a house, and the people that had previously owned a house, we were getting ready to have a investor meetup at one of the properties, and about an hour before we were getting ready to start, a rent-to-own type of furniture place pulled up and was looking for the previous owners. Like, that's insane. And we were like, well, they don't live here anymore, But it's the type of predatory lending. It's the fact that we still need representation in places. Like, in the real estate industry, we still need representation in those mortgage companies, with appraisers, because the average Black home is still appraised at almost $50,000 less than another white than a white American's home. Now, you might say, oh, well, that's not a big deal. Well, it is if you are looking at using your home as a line of credit, right? To maybe buy other assets or to buy another property or, you know what I'm saying? Or put your money to work.
Now, don't get this twisted, what I'm about to say. I rarely play devil's advocate. But here's what I don't...
Wait a minute, you said you rarely play devil's advocate?
Yeah.
I need you to stop.
I do rarely play devil's advocate.
Jen.
Whatever.
Jen don't want to say nothing. She's laughing hard too. But go ahead.
They're going to try to front on me on this here podcast.
All right. Okay. Go ahead.
Here's what I don't have a solution for. I know from personal experience that in different neighborhoods, the price of things are different in the same exact store. So if you go to a Home Depot in the hood and you go to the Home Depot in the suburbs, the prices of the stuff is different.
Right.
Even when you go to even places like Burger King and stuff, the prices are actually different.
Yeah.
But they put those prices on there based on shrinkage, theft, and things like that. So they adjust the prices because they say they have more theft or shrinkage in certain areas. So as an entrepreneur, you have to make adjustments based on, okay, this store location has X percentage of theft or shrinkage, but a lot of people are stealing because they don't have the money to purchase, or they, stealing food or something like that. But the problem is, like, even with the appraisals are crazy. Some appraisals
We've had to fight. We have had to fight appraisals.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm saying,
times.
Is
people don't know that.
If a neighborhood has a stigma of being like a bad area, a lot of times the appraisers are going to appraise the property assuming, oh, this property's in a bad area. It could be totally renovated, everything updated, but he's appraising the area more than the house. So like,
but even, I mean, we advise our clients to neutralize their houses. We advise it because we know, like, we know that they could be at risk of having their house. They could be in a wonderful neighborhood. A lot of my clients live in affluent neighborhood. A lot of our clients live in affluent neighborhoods, but we know that as soon as that appraiser walks into that house, the moment they see, a picture of a Black family, they are at much higher risk of not being appraised at value.
but I'm saying it's two different types of issues that we have to deal with. You got that issue, a very nice neighborhood, and you got to take all your personal pictures down and things like that. But I'm saying in a neighborhood that's supposed to be like rough or bad area or predominantly Black or whatever, the appraiser it's a systemic
Already,
thing.
yeah. Thank you.
Before
I'm
they
glad
even
you're
walk
saying
into
that.
the house. You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? So it's two different type of issues. So it's like, that's what I was saying I don't have an answer for. So it's like if more thefts do happen, it's just like if you go to Walmart in one neighborhood, a lot of stuff is all locked up. You got to get somebody to get a key to come get it. And
It's
if I go
awful.
to Walmart in a different area,
and
I can just
sometimes
go.
it's just the Black items. Sometimes it's just the Black items, and I will call a chain out in a minute when I see it.
But what do you do? Like,
I'll go online and be like,
if it
"This is
really
what you
is
guys
a
are
lot
doing."
more thefts going on, a lot more people stealing stuff in those areas.
But again, it's systemic racism though. So it's like it's a deeper issue. People wouldn't have to steal. And theft comes in all shapes, colors, and sizes. Okay? There is a lot of theft happening in I was at a mall in a pretty nice neighborhood. I walk in because I'm going to get my ring fixed, and I see someone that doesn't look like me running out on the other side with a box of shoes, and two mall cops are running after him.
Paul Blart.
Right? It's the fact that they weaponize our color, that you can see, two white boys standing on a corner and think nothing of it. You see two or three Black boys standing on a corner, and you think automatically they're up to no good. You think that, when we have to have these conversations, and it's, I love, having these conversations with other people because it to me, walk a mile in my shoes, right? The conversations that we have to have with our children, with particularly with our Black boys, right? People automatically think that our Black boys are older than they really are, right? When you're talking about, oh gosh, you can talk about dress, you can talk about education, where just some of the slightest things. When Linnea came over and we sent her to school, and Nia's always been in honors classes. Remember this? And her new counselor said, when we moved here, her new counselor said, well, I just think that that's going to be too much for you. Why? Right? What do you mean? She's always taken honors courses. But the perception was, you can't handle this type of work. The perception is, that we live different lives, that we are nasty, that we don't know the value of money. The perception is that, again, that our young boys and our young girls are up to no good. Oh,
I put it on Do Not Disturb. I don't know what happened.
you are being disturbed. We are all being disturbed. Okay. At least it wasn't me though. And so, when we're going back to looking at the wealth, right? the median wealth. And we've already talked about housing, we talked about education, we've talked about the lack of food in our communities, the fact that there are food deserts. I am encouraged though, because I am seeing things like here in Las Vegas, Mario's
West Side Market.
Mario's West Side Market. They have put a grocery store in a predominantly African American or Black and brown community, right? So that makes me happy, and I know other areas and other people in different cities are doing the same thing. So I'm happy about that. But there has to be more if we're going to combat the fact that the median wealth is going to be zero, like in the middle. You're going to have people that have and people that don't have. Mm-hmm. And let's face it, America has always looked like that. I'm not sure what the American dream really is. Excuse me, but I am of the belief that a rising tide lifts all boats. So if we embrace diversity and if we embrace representation in all areas, from education to financial literacy to real estate, it's going to take time, because this is like turning the Titanic, right? It's going to take time, but it can help. Jen, you had something you were going to say too?
No, you're talking about the rising tide, but if your boat is chained down by debt, you still going to be out of luck.
So we need to talk about, so here's one of the things also that we as an entire society, we have to stop only talking about inequality. Because inequality basically says, okay, we're bringing everybody up to the same line. Awesome, wonderful. But if the person next to me at the starting line has a Ferrari and I got a bike, when that gun goes off and they say go, somebody's still gonna be ahead of me, right? It's about making sure we come up to the starting line. Okay, who came up to the starting line without gas? Who came up to the starting line? You have a Ferrari. Okay, you only have a bicycle. We need to make sure that you have a car, a Ferrari, so that you can continue to move. So one of the biggest issues, I believe, is only talking about inequality is a misstep on our part. We also have to talk about equity, right? Which means, how can we even the playing field? And this is why affirmative action was so key. And now we look up and that has dissipated. Yeah. But this is why affirmative action was so key, because you had people, what it was doing was it was taking those people who were probably, we'll just say qualified, right? Mm-hmm. It was taking the qualified people and allowing them to be in the same room to be chosen, right? It wasn't taking people, the problem was with affirmative action was the perception was they were taking people that were not qualified. Mm-hmm. That's the perception. What it was doing was taking people that were fully qualified, just as smart, all the things, and then giving them the opportunity to get into that position. Now that we don't have that, what do we do now?
Well, I think that's a totally different thing, but correct me if I'm wrong, Jen. The problem is it's like the illusion of middle class, or what you're talking about, equity. So before, we were discriminated against with housing. Now we can buy a house and it sounds good. It's like great home ownership. You can only put 3.5% down. Well, you still owe 96.5% on your house. Yeah. So yes, it's much better than renting,
Sure.
But versus a house that you inherited or somebody was able to put 50% down. So it's like, yep, we're well, actually not more homeowners now, but you can own a home just like everybody else, but it's a whole lot of debt attached to it. You can have 2 nice cars, but you got to have a car note on both of them. You can go to college, but to be a doctor, but you got $200,000, $300,000 in student loans. So when you look from a net worth aspect, yeah, I own a house, I got a car, I went to college, but I got student loans, I got a mortgage, I got a house note, car note. You know what I mean? So it's the debt that still bogs you down. So it's like if my great grandfather had a house and I inherited that house, I can live in that house and not have a mortgage. Or if we sold that house, I can take that money and buy a house and not have a mortgage or have a lower mortgage or something to pass on. So
or buy 3 houses somewhere else.
Yeah. So it's actually power in being broke because.
Explain that.
Because
I ain't never felt powerful broke. I can tell you that right now.
there's a
I ain't never.
No, but look, there's a peace of mind when you don't have debt. So if you are at least zero,
you then there is no power in being broke. You're saying being debt free?
No. There's
saying.
power in being broke because you don't have to keep doing something to pay off debt. So a lot of people don't want to get up in the morning and go work for a job, but they like, I got $257,000.
There's a power in living beneath your means. There's a power in living beneath your means. Because at the end of the day, we'll talk about that at another time, but the cost of living is increasing, right? And people's paychecks have not increased in quite some time. But when you have, because I don't want people to think like having a broke mentality is powerful. No,
I'm
living
not saying
within
that.
your means and saying, if I don't have it cash on hand, I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to buy it. I think also one of the biggest things is we as a people, we have to stop with instant gratification. Instant gratification is a big problem. And I'm saying we as a people, Americans, we like instant gratification.
They do, but it's the difference between instant gratification and having to go into debt or use credit to survive. That's another level of poverty. So it's just like, okay, I don't have money, so I'm going to starve, or do I use credit because it's the American way? You see what I'm saying? It's still a check down. So it's like, okay, I have money, I don't have to use credit, I'm not broke. Then I don't have money, so, and then there's, like Jen said,
those were
in
negative.
debt because you don't have money, people gotta survive. So that's why debt is at an all-time high. Like credit card usage is at an all-time high because it's the trap to keep you enslaved because you gotta keep going to work. You know what I mean? You keep giving your money, back or whatever.
Live.
So,
but I strongly disagree that being broke is like a powerful thing. It's not.
Well, I'm saying instead of relying on credit or using money as a crutch, like Damon John has a whole book called The Power of Broke. There is a freedom.
He does have.
I'd rather have peace of mind.
Actually, it's a very good book.
I'd rather have peace of mind and be broke than be in debt and not have peace of mind.
What he was also talking about was, he was talking about like hustling to get out of there.
I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying just like he talked about his power being broke, because if you can have money, you can throw money at a problem and not have the knowledge, and you just wasting money because you got money to throw
there is
at
no
a problem.
there is no plan B is what he's saying. You're gonna go hard in what you're doing, and I get that, but we got to get out of this broke mentality type stuff. We got to get out of this like a poverty mindset. If we don't, we're gonna keep losing. Like, you know, I don't think as far as cars and what we're wearing and all the things, can we live below our means so that maybe we don't see everything, but maybe the next generation does. And, you know, maybe we can continue to teach our children and our grandchildren. You know, birthday gifts. Maybe we don't do birthday gifts in a sense of you get a new toy or you get this or that. Okay, let's start you on some stocks here, right? Like if you can now but you always been able to get accounts that are, you know, minor accounts that you can continue to put money into so that when that child turns 18 or 21, now they already have something to work off of, right? You can, go ahead, Jen, you were gonna say something?
You'd have to teach children to care about assets.
Yeah, financial literacy.
Yeah, you would have
Financial literacy needs to be taught in schools. And if it's not, then we got to teach it. I love the 100 Black Men. They started here in Las Vegas, they have a financial literacy class for young boys. They also have they definitely, but do they have coding or is that another company? Another
I think
organization?
that they do that as well.
I think they do that too.
Different sessions.
Yeah. And so, again, leading with light, if America's not going to do that as a whole, we have to do it as a community. We have to step in and say, you know what? Because also, I've seen it time and time again where if I'm in a class about entrepreneurship, I started being an entrepreneur 13 years ago. How old was Jonathan? 13 years ago. And I went to the incubators and the entrepreneurship classes and all the things. And guess what I realized? I realized for the most part, they weren't marketing to me. They weren't even talking to me. A lot of things they assumed that I knew as a new entrepreneur because other people in the room knew. And this is why it's good for us to have classes, financial literacy classes, entrepreneurship classes, home ownership classes, because we can address our needs.
Yeah.
We can't depend on them to try to teach us how to get out of the position they put us in. Like, that's wild.
Because there is a comfortability when you have people that are like-minded, that have like-minded experiences, that, you know, somebody might not be as willing to ask a question in a class that's not really geared towards them, or that, you know, no one's been marketing to them to even come to the class. I don't feel comfortable. I remember not feeling comfortable asking about, as a new entrepreneur, this was a long time ago, but asking about break even. Like, they just, like, they were like, I mean, you know, make sure your break even point is da-da-da-da, make sure your profit margin is da-da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, I just wrote it down quietly. I just want to look like everybody else. And it totally went over my head.
Even if you understood the concept, that might not be what they call it where you from.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're just trying to get to zero, right? Because that's what it is. So when do you re-up? Like,
right.
They don't say that.
They don't say that. They're talking about inventory and first in and first out and all this stuff. And so, or first in and last out. So it's just, if we are able to, and I'm not saying we also have to be careful. Let me say this too. We also have to be careful about trying to reach back and pull people along when we've just got out ourselves.
But then they'll call you a gatekeeper.
No, but
look, let me get situated first.
Right. And I believe that that's okay. I believe that it's okay to, like, you be situated first, you know, because there are so many lessons that we have learned from being baby entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs, and all the bumps and the bruises and the lessons. And I mean, we're still learning lessons, but to try to reach back when you've just gotten out yourself could be dangerous.
Yeah.
You got to get situated yourself so that you can truly reach back and give back. And then I'm not saying don't, reach back at all. But, if you just flipped a house, your first house, and now you want to have a whole course on it, baby, do you recommend that?
Absolutely not.
I wouldn't recommend it, right? Like if you
one bad flip away from you're not
right,
expert
like
no more.
if you've just got the taxes and all the things together, and now you are trying to teach financial literacy, I wouldn't recommend it. Like let's make sure that we're established.
But I don't know. It's always a middle ground because I'm a firm believer, not like saying you way further ahead than you are. I'm a firm believer in there's somebody in the worse off or behind you. So even if I flipped one house, I can't help somebody to get to that point. I can't help them beyond that, but you're able to help people no matter what point that you're at now.
But
we always talk about not helping people to the detriment of yourself.
Yes. But you know what you could do though? Document your processes. Document your processes. That's one of the easiest things that you can do is document your processes and keep documenting. Because then you have a manual, a full, okay, if XYZ happens, then ABC happens here. A whole bunch of if-then statements. You have manuals and things like that you can continue to perfect, that you can continue to change. And when you get to a place where you can then hire people on, like that's huge. When you can, there are, and I can't remember the number, but there's a large number of solo entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Solo entrepreneurs are self-employed people.
It's easy to...
And there's nothing wrong with that, let me tell you, because we were solo entrepreneurs for a long time. But solo entrepreneurs don't change economic. They don't make economic change. What makes economic change is when you're now able to hire people on, when you're able to hire people that can then take care of their families, right? So, I definitely don't believe in being a gatekeeper. Leave the door open. Like, don't, oh, well, I made it and I'm not. But we have to make sure we're doing good business.
Yeah,
we have to.
That's what's the crazy thing is. A lot of people, we so far behind. We still teaching people how to start. It's relatively easy to start a business. It's not hard to start. What's harder is to scale. What's harder is to survive. But we just now getting to the point of starting a business and having the opportunity to gain some wealth or opportunity not to work for somebody else. A lot of times it can be harder because you have this company endorsing you or you don't have all the pressure on you when you're an employee. Because if you're a small business owner or a solo entrepreneur, it's all on you and your resources and your knowledge and what you have. So what's crazy is we've been stuck on starting a business or getting out of being employees or whatever, but starting a business is kind of the easy part. Staying in business is hard. Scaling a business and growing it is what's difficult. You know what I mean?
Very, very, very hard. Only 96% of entrepreneurs continue on to their second.
But that's what contributes to the net worth being so low. Okay, you work for somebody, you can't pass on your job to somebody, or you can't employ your child or something. Or you start your own business, but you're a solo entrepreneur, you're still giving your children basically nothing. I mean, yeah, they could take over for you or something like that. But a lot of times it's not like a big company that's been scaled and grown and, you know what I mean? Things like that. So that's what contributes to the net worth being low too. So I want to go over a lot of the reasons because I want to get to what can we do for real,
Okay. Yeah, we've been talking
to
about
help.
a lot of stuff.
So we talked about
bring it on home.
racism. We talked about, of course, a long time ago, slavery. We talked about the disparities. Even if you work a job, there's huge disparities in the pay, the income. It's a pay disparity. And then there's just less assets being passed down. So let's talk about, well, they also talked about like among near retirees, the average retirement account is like 1/4 of white households. So if you have to go from like job to job, it's hard to like keep contributing to retirement accounts and things like that.
And that was something that I didn't know when I was changing jobs. Like just the concept of, okay, well, I worked at this job and I paid into retirement and now I'm going here. How do I move this money? Like, I had no idea.
Right. And it is assumed that everybody knows. It's just assumed.
And now it's a new norm for people to not stay on the job like your father. He worked somewhere. My grandfather, he worked for Stearns.
36 years.
Yeah, my grandfather worked for Stearns and Foster for like 40 years. Yeah. Your father worked for what, 30-something years? So he worked the same job, so he had the same retirement account. But when you worked at 5-7 different places during your working years, it's like if you don't know how to roll over or you should roll this over, then that becomes an issue too.
Yeah. The average person that stays on their job is now 5 years.
Yeah.
And people change careers. People change careers on average. Millennials change careers on average of, I think they said 3 times. Careers. I done changed careers a lot. So I can attest to that. I think I'm a little above average, but that's okay. But it's high now.
So let's talk about economics.
Okay.
It says closing the revenue gap between black and white businesses would generate an additional $290 billion for the U.S. economy as a whole. So if we could help close the revenue gap, they were saying it would be good for the U.S. economy.
$290 billion. That's the rising tide. There's a lot of... Everybody's got to be on board. That's the point. And that because there's no... Well, if you just fix this part in this industry, that'll fix everything. No. That's why it's systemic. It's built into the fabric of this country.
You would just have to convince people that
you would do better.
That they would do better if we did better.
That's right. And do people believe that?
Well, obviously if we weren't such a fragmented nation, America is not looked at the same way as America was looked at before because we really are a fragmented nation. It's like puzzle pieces when they all not fitting together. But yeah, it would be better because we wouldn't have to go to do a lot of import and export and getting a lot of our stuff, sending stuff out overseas, getting things done. So it would help the U.S. economy. Another thing that I want to talk about as we get into what we can do is a lot of time back in the day, even like 10 years ago, even if you worked a basic, regular, minimum wage job, if it was 2 people working full times, you could still pay the rent and stuff like that. But now, inflation and things going up, you can't just work a regular job at like Rallies or Checkers and a basic job and pay bills because you used to be able to go get a job at a factory or doing like something like that. Like my grandfather, he was a manager for Stearns and Foster factory, the company that made mattresses. And my grandmother worked at U.S. playing cards in a factory, inspecting cars that we use in all the casinos. So they took those 2 regular back in the day. You could take those incomes, even without a college education, and like make it. Now it's like hard to make it with a off a minimum wage or something like that. So.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what we can do. So I do want to point out that I feel like that we out here doing our part. I feel like it. So home ownership.
We're doing in our
What
little
can we-
small corner of the
Yeah, in our small
world.
corner. But that's what you have to focus on.
Yeah.
You focus on your backyard, like you said. Why would I go somewhere else when I can go in where I live at my backyard and help people where I'm at, and helping people at the level that I'm at. So home ownership classes. That's one thing that we can do. Just spreading awareness and knowledge of here's how you prepare yourself to buy a house. Here's the resources. Here's access to programs, mortgages, the knowledge and things like that. Another thing is to keep properties.
Okay.
And that's another thing too. Like, okay, if I say right now, name your top 5 like black movies, I would just say something like Soul Food.
Okay.
Or what's the one? Almost Christmas.
Almost Christmas.
Almost Christmas.
You ever
right?
watched that movie? It's a good one. Go ahead though.
What's the reoccurring theme in these movies? Big Mama.
Oh, Big Mama's house.
Papa's house.
Mm-hmm.
They had the house in the family, and they sold that house, or they had to sell the house.
Right.
You know, everybody
trying to
flocked
sell
to
it,
Big Mama's house because they were able to actually purchase a house and own a house.
Mm-hmm.
So if we keep more properties versus selling them when Big Mama dies or Grandpa dies or Mama dies or something like that, that gives something to pass on versus like an inheritance, wealth, assets, things like that. Another thing is to put properties in a trust. A lot of black people don't have wills and trusts and things like that, so properties go to probate. And even if the family does get it, a lot of the money gets eaten up because you got to pay for probate, you got to pay for lawyers, you got to wait. And so while you may have an asset, but because you don't have access to it, you struggling real bad.
Yeah. True story. That is what happened to us.
Mm-hmm.
To my father when he passed. There was no trust, and there was no will.
Mm-hmm.
And the house that my father built was in probate. That was painful to watch. As someone who grew up in the house that my father built, to watch it go to nothing and be, sold off and what little was left, be dispersed. So this thing is real.
Mm-hmm.
This thing is real. And if you don't have a will, there's no one that it goes to.
Yeah.
So there was nothing that we could do as his children to take on the house and say, this is what we're going to do with the house or anything like that. So guys, this stuff is important. And we're not telling you something that we're just watching. Like, a lot of the stuff we actually walk through, like, for real.
Good and bad.
Yeah. Continue. I just had to give that little testimony because it's real.
Yeah.
ahead.
Second thing what we can do is, I call it legacy. So we talked about that just now. Wills, trust, and a trust specifies, and the will too, but a trust specifies what you want done if you pass. Because even if you have like a will specifies who you want to go to who or whatever. I mean, what you want to go to who or whatever. But a trust says, hey, it's like more specific. So like businesses, assets, and things like that. That way, if your children don't have the same knowledge, or your surviving heirs don't have the same knowledge as you may have,
they won't mess it up.
They won't mess it up. Basically, I was trying to find a nice way to say it. But
they won't muck it up. Right?
Yeah, they won't mess it up.
Well, and like a lot of us don't know that because, and this is unfortunate, because we started behind the starting line.
Yeah,
and you didn't have anything to protect.
We didn't
have nothing
right.
to protect. Yeah.
So it's huge to start your own business.
Yeah.
Like that's
true.
That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the
we're
start.
yeah,
That's
but
the
it's just the
start.
start, and we're hustling and hustling to build this business and all the things, and then we don't even get into the opportunity to save it and to put it, put things in a trust and to protect the assets and all the things, and but we do have people out there that know this.
Yeah.
We do have people that are experts in this.
Yeah. So another thing is insurance
All right.
policies, and insurance policies that's basic level. When I found out that insurance is basic level because you don't have to have a big insurance policy if you got a whole lot of assets. If you pass, sometimes people have more assets than an insurance policy will even cover.
They can cover, yeah.
But that's the basics. If you know you don't have a whole lot of assets to pass on, you get an insurance policy because you haven't accumulated those assets, and people have insurance policies so they don't have to get rid of the assets that they passed on. They can just use those insurance policies for expenses. One of the big things that I was so fortunate and grateful that when my mom passed, she had an insurance policy. And it wasn't a whole bunch of money. It didn't change my life. It wasn't no huge inheritance, but it was enough money after the funeral for me to pay at the time, my car off. And I was so grateful and thankful that I was able to, I think me and my sister got like $4,000 a piece or something like that.
Yeah.
But I was able to pay my car off and not have a car note because my mom had an insurance policy that covered her funeral, and it was a little bit of money left over. So just something like that is huge. You know what I mean? You don't have a car note, that's less pressure on you. And I was like 25 years old when my mom passed, so like not having a car note at 25 was like huge for me. But it's not even that expensive, $20, $30 a month for just a basic insurance policy. And I remember back in the day, they used to have the insurance man. He used to come to the neighborhood and knock on people's doors.
Yeah.
When the last time you seen an insurance person come to anybody's house? That went out a long time ago.
Yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to answer the door.
Well, I'm just saying. All right, so business and entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship classes, how to start a business correctly. Yeah. Having a mentor or somebody that can mentor you in your field. And this is big too now. This is step 2, having an exit or expansion plan.
That's where we're stuck right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. So I've been in business for 7 years.
Right.
And I don't, other than just not doing it anymore, like I don't know how to exit in a smart way. So that's something that I'm gonna have to talk to Nicci about shortly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so having an exit plan or an expansion plan or a legacy plan. Like I've had a personal experience with this too. A lot of times you have this person in your family that started a business and that was successful, but they don't always have a plan to replace them.
Yeah.
Or even train the next replacement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So having a legacy plan, or like who's going to be your successor? Who's going to take over the company after you retire, or you can't do it no more, or you get dementia, or you know what I mean? Something like that. And the last thing is unity. You know, we need to have a real sense of community. We need to support each other more. And I think that, really to pat ourselves on the back. I think we do a good job of doing the support and having community and things like that.
We try to.
Yeah.
We try to. I think also representation matters in all areas, in all industries. Representation matters. Children need to see Black teachers.
Yep.
People need to see Black women, Black men in the C-suite. People need to see Black mayors, people that are running, in politics. Congressman Horsford, having my son see someone like him in office and also in the community and things like that, that's huge. Seeing Black realtors, seeing Black, loan officers, Black appraisers, shop owners, grocery store owners, representation in all areas matters. It really, really, really does. So I think that's huge. That's key. All right. Well, I think we're about done.
Yeah.
We didn't talk this thing to death. We'd love to hear about what you think, though, because this is such a complex topic. And again, something that we're like hugely passionate about. We don't like to, bog people down with all kinds of numbers and statistics and things like that. But it's real. It's real, and there are things that we can do. And again, a rising tide lifts all boats. And equality and equity is key. I'll just leave it right there. That's what I'm passionate about. Okay. Are we ready for our real estate minute of the day?
We're ready.
Let's do it. Okay, let's talk about mortgages. Let's talk about loans, okay? I want to talk about FHA versus conventional. Okay. All right. So FHA is a government-backed loan, and many people think that is the only loan that may be available to them. But there is also a conventional loan. Now, let me tell you the difference a little bit. First of all, with FHA, regarding credit score, you can actually have a minimum of 580. However, all right, as your real estate agent, I do not recommend that we enter into a loan at such a low credit score. Why? Because number one, they're going to require more down payment. And they're also, your interest rate is going to be significantly higher. Okay. So I recommend when you're at a 620, that's when, now we're getting there. A 620 or higher is strong. And the higher you get, the stronger that interest rate is going to be. Or your interest rate, what should I say, stronger or less? Less. There we go. Your interest rate's going to be. All right. Let's see. Conventional, they will look at a 620, but they're looking at 650 or higher. So you need to have like a higher credit score for conventional. Let's see. There is, for FHA, sometimes there is no income restriction, but for conventional, sometimes there is an income restriction. FHA is usually easier to qualify for versus conventional, where they have a few more stringent guidelines. All right. Let's see what else. There is particularly talking about your mortgage insurance. FHA does require mortgage insurance, and sometimes that can make a big difference on your monthly mortgage payment. Mm-hmm. For for conventional mortgage insurance, if you pay 20% or higher, you don't have to have that mortgage insurance. So those are just a few things, FHA versus conventional. But the good thing is if you link up with an awesome loan officer, they can sit down with you and talk to you about all the different options. They can help you decide if FHA is better for you or if conventional is better for you. So that's my real estate minute of the day. And we hope that you enjoyed this here episode talking about median price and net worth. And we would love to hear all the things that you thought about today's episode. So go ahead and put it in the comments below. We will be reading. Other than that, guys, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.